Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is today Tuesday or Wednesday, I forget. It's Tuesday. It's July 31st. I do know it's the last day of the month, and so we've got another month wrapping up here. Hard to believe that we're about to start August. So anyway, we had an uptrend today mostly. You can see it's kind of working its way up. It's a two-tier channel. The darker blue channel is the trend channel for today, and you can see it's pretty obvious. We finally got a break here and we moved to a new high, and then we've been selling off. It didn't actually make a new high until just after the market reopened. This line is the 315 close, and this is where we're working here in the after hour session now. So, uh, but you can see we got one leg up early, then we had this correction, and then from there you'd look for a possible measured move up, and you can see we got that basically within a tick or two. We went a tick or two further, and then we came back again, had the break of this two-tier channel, and of course we moved to a new high, and now we're kind of working off. So um, everything kind of played out. There's a couple of interesting items I wanted to talk about. Notice that we were moving up here in a fairly tight channel, and there was a news item, but this news item came out about 7:30, which 7:30 is right up in this congestion area here. And notice we didn't bounce until almost 8:30, and when it did, it rocketed off. So I don't know if that's news related, if that's what caused that. Could be. We kind of shot down here, but it was, you know, almost 45 minutes later before it rocketed up. So I don't know if that's what caused that or not, but I thought I wanted to point it out because somebody asked me. It was actually after the fact that they asked me about the news. There was another high news item right in here, and you can see it didn't really affect anything. But the main reason I wanted to talk about this was just to show you real quickly that even when the news item comes out, and even if it does affect the prices and causes some high volatility, the price action still works out. Notice what happened. We had a break of that tight channel, moved to a new high, and then it sold off. That's exactly what you would expect to happen. So even during a news item, even right here, you had a high volatility news item. I don't think it was high volatility in the end, but notice we went right back up to the top of the channel and we sold off, came back down to the bottom, and then we took off again. So everything, the price action still held up and still played out like you would expect it to. So even during news items, even though it might get much more volatile and it might move further than you would expect, and the price action generally plays out. So keep that in mind. So I did want to talk about that. But let's talk about the trades. This was the first one I saw this morning. It's the first break. It's a first entry. If you draw your trend line down on this little short term, you can see it kind of working down there, and you get a close outside. It never really checks up, but that's the first break. It is right here at the trend line. It's a fairly bullish bar. It's kind of an inside bar to that, so you may take that one, and it would have been a good trade, but I don't think I would take that. I will say this, that this is basically a double bottom. And so it's two entries there. It's not, I wouldn't really classify this as a failed second entry short, but it's also congestion here, and it's a drop out of that. So you'll probably pull back and test that breakout area across there. So that's another reason to maybe take that a little bit early. There's a couple of reasons that you might, but that thing took off so fast, you may or may not have gotten in it. I don't know. Um, it's possible. But anyway, we were way overdone here, and notice there's a new low here. You get a first entry, second entry, and you've really got a double top way away from the EMA here. Nice little small signal bar, second entry short. I'd take that one just to ride it back to the EMA if nothing else. And you went a little further than that, but I probably would have checked out right there when it started bouncing off that EMA. And of course, now you get a bounce. There is a second entry long right here, but you're below the EMA, you're not back to the trend line. You've already had a big overshoot. Um, there's a couple of bars stacked up there. There's just, enough reasons why I probably wouldn't take that trade. I think it's too risky at that point. I'd want to see it back to the key entry point. Plus, you've already had a break in a new high. And you could really argue for this to be another swing right there. And so everything's still inside that trend line. I just don't think that's a good entry, so I didn't mark that one. There's a higher low right here, but again, this is the first break, so you don't really know what prices are going to do yet. You may take that one, but notice there's 1, 2, 3, 4 bars. That's definitely a doji. That's close to a doji. So again, I don't think I would take that. Plus there's a high here, so you've really got a little bit of a double top right there. And there is a failed second entry short right here. Again, I didn't mark it because it's right into this high. And notice where it went. It went right to that high. Put a line on there just so it's a little easier to see. To the tick of those closes and turned down. And plus it gapped over there, so I'm pretty sure you wouldn't have been able to get in that one until this backed up. And with a double top setting up there, you'd have to be crazy to be looking for long. I would instantly look for shorts right there. And that turns out to be a nice short because now you've got a double top here with a lower high and a fairly bearish bar. And so I like that one to the downside. You get a lower high right here off of this high. So there's another chance to get in. And then it kind of starts going sideways. I don't think I would. There is a failed second entry long right here, but I wouldn't take that one. You've already had a break of this little trend line coming down and a move down to a new low, so you may not get enough to get another scalp, and I just don't think it's worth taking. And then you do have this news item coming up here. That's another high volatility news item. Notice that it didn't really affect prices, but there's a little double bottom here and then the higher low. This is like a reversal pattern. Even though it went a little bit lower, that's still like first entry, second entry. It's a little two legs back to the EMA. I like that one. You might have argued for this to be the true second entry short that fails, but there probably is enough room to get out right there. In fact, I know there is. But again, I don't really like going long there because now you got a break and it's right into that trend. And there's also some resistance across here. And the trend is down here. So I'd just wait and see. If I'd had a good signal bar, I'd take that short all day long because that does confirm your trend line there. You do have a close outside the new high, but that's a perfect doji on my chart. So I didn't mark it. If you had a better setup, I'd take that one if I had a better signal bar. And that's a nice move down, but I don't see any way to get in on that one on my chart that makes it worth me risking that entry right there. So it turns out to be a nice move down. And then we bounce down here. So I would draw this trend line just in case. And I'd drag it up here to these highs just to see how it fits. And of course we do take off here. But notice what happens. You got a double bottom, first entry, you move through the MA, pull back second entry, it bounces right off that trend line. It is a doji, but it's a failed second entry short, and it does confirm that trend line. I'm going to take that one. It actually pulls back and breaks lower again, but that bar is just too bullish, and you're starting to stack up. If I wasn't in here, I probably wouldn't get in it. And then again, I like this one, but it's right back into this trend line, and you don't know that this one's the larger one. We don't have really a whole lot of information on it, and this is a confirmed trend line that's very obvious, so I'm not going to go long into that trend line right there. But notice what happens. It pushes up, you make a low, you test it once, you test it twice, and you really got a double test right there, so you may consider entering, but I'd really like to see it try to go lower again and get back over to the trend line at least, and it does right there. So I like, and it's almost like a little breakout pullback long right there as well. If you draw your line here. Of course, you could argue the same thing. Here it looks like a little bit of a breakout pullback as well. But now you've tried to go lower two more times and you're bouncing off the trend line. That's why the key entry point. That's why I like that one. And that puts you into a really great trade. You could ride this all the way up. And then you already had your line up here. And by this time you could probably find your midline. And that takes you straight to it. And plus you had your measured move. That's this line here, this arrow. And you know, that's putting you in the same place. So a lot of evidence that maybe that's where we're headed. And this thing gets overdone. I'm not going to enter up here. This is looking like a really strong trend right here. But I don't think you want to enter up here this far away from the EMA. And then of course we're working down first entry, pull back second entry, and there's really a failed second entry long there, but everything's still inside this trend line and still above the EMA, but then it pushes through, pulls back, and it fails again and gives you that big bearish bar. I would have been ready to go short there already with a sell stop, and it closed before it broke through, but you should have already had your sell stop there, and I like that one. And then we just kind of start going sideways. There's a failed breakout here, but there's not enough room between here and here. And then we break out again, and this one pushes all the way through, and now you got a double test up here of this level again. I marked this one. I'm still a little hesitant that one, but look how it pushed all the way through and closed. Most likely you wouldn't have got in this one because it gaps over and keeps moving down, so I doubt you would have got filled on that unless you used a limit order, because you wouldn't have got a stop in there in time. And I'm not going to ride this back and risk a limit order coming all the way back and almost stopping me out there. I'm not going to do that. So you're better off to wait. Of course, you get a lower high here, and I would draw that trend line there just in case, especially since it kind of fits off these lows. And but it doesn't give you enough room to get out before being back to these lows again. And then if you saw this bigger channel, you also got a midline. But when it pushes through, pulls back, and it closes inside that trend line again, and that's really a failed second entry long, I like going short right there. And notice off that key entry point, once it's confirmed, how it drops. And that gets you into the 2 o'clock hour. And I did want to point something out about, notice where all your big moves occur. Early on, these were your two biggest, this was your biggest move. Where did it occur? Right off a confirmed key entry point trend line. Same thing here. Where'd that originate? Right off that trend line. Coming down. Where did your biggest move of all happen? Right off a key entry point trend line. Boom. Where did this big move start? Right off your trend line. Of course, you wouldn't have had this trend line yet probably. That would have just set it for you, so you wouldn't have had as much evidence here. But look, going up at this short-term trend line, where do your big moves happen each time? Where did that one happen? Right off a confirmed key entry point trend line. Look at it go. Same thing coming down here. Where did this big move start? Right here, right off a confirmed key entry point trend line. Same thing. Where does this big move start back at? Key entry point, right off this trend line here. And you even had a big move here. Where did it originate? Right off that horizontal key entry point. Same thing, here's another one. Boom. And so just remember that's where everything happens, and that's why these trend lines are important. People get all caught up in trend lines and think that you got to follow the rules to the exact T, and the trend lines are important because it helps you find these key entry points, but it doesn't mean, I'm trying to think, I'm just trying to decide exactly how to describe this the way I'm wanting to word it, so I'm trying to choose my words carefully. But you'll get people that get caught up in the perfection out of a trend line, and you won't always get perfection. Nothing in the markets is 100%, nothing. If they were, it'd be a lot easier to trade, but what we have our rules that we have set up, and they work 90% plus of the time. And so if you stay consistent with the rules, you're going to have the advantage on your side. But you got to stay consistent with the rules and play them the same way every time. But just remember, these trend lines are important to find and to get them right. And people say you can't find these trend lines, that you're drawing these after the fact. I hear that so many times. It's just laughable. I mean, I've shown you how to find these. All you had to do was draw this trend line off these first two swings, and you had this big one. It didn't really help you today, but that's how you find it. Notice this one. You drew it off those first couple of little swings, and there you had it all the way up. Same thing here. You drew it off. You really could find these off the highs and drag it down and be waiting on that one to show up, and then you have those two, and that gives you that one. And a lot of times you find them off the other side before you find them on the trend side. And this one was pretty easy right here. You draw it off the first two swings, use the high and the closes of the first swing, and then you had it. And people will say you can't do that. And I mean, that's okay if you don't believe you can do it, but it can be done. And, I'm not coming in here, I'm not going to say that I don't draw some of these lines after the fact, because I may not have been trading this afternoon. So I might have come in here and looked at this afternoon and maybe put some of these lines on, but you still can find them. I mean, you could draw this line right off these lows and drag it right up to this high, and you would have been sitting there waiting on that one. And you might have had it a little, let me show you. I might have in a minute I'll grab the right line. I might have originally have it a little tighter across those closes, but you see it still fits perfectly at this point, and then you drag it up to that high and you just wait and see, and look, it comes right to it twice. It confirms it. This is a skill, people, and anybody tells you it's not, don't listen to them. Just because they can't do it doesn't mean it can't be done. So don't listen to the naysayers and the haters. They're out there, man. They're trying to hack our site every day. They're constantly posting stuff on these YouTube videos, making comments on our site. I mean, I'll ban them off the site, ban their IP, and then they'll go get another IP address and come in and try to make another comment. So to be that concerned about what we're doing, they have an agenda, and so don't listen to those people. And I don't even try to talk about them much anymore, but since we were kind of on that subject about trend lines, I thought I would throw that out, because they've been hounding the site and the YouTube lately again with, you can't draw trend lines. This is all after the fact. None of this means anything. Well, for one thing, they don't understand our purpose here. Our purpose is to help you, show you the trade so you can learn to spot them yourself. That's why we do this. This isn't about my trades or anything to do with my trading. Nothing. This is what I do, and this is how I do it. Other than that, that's the only thing this has to do with my trading. I've never claimed that I took any of these trades. Most of the time I will have taken some of them, but I don't take every trade here every day. No, and it says that in the disclaimer. So again, I didn't mean to get off on this tangent and get on my soapbox today, but it kind of all flowed together, so I did it. But yeah, don't let anybody tell you you can't find these trend lines and that this can't be done except after the fact, because they're just haters out there. They may not can do it. That's very well true. Maybe they can't do it. I don't know. I don't know why people there's some people out there that just want to come in and cause trouble. That's just part of the internet, I guess. So you can go to any YouTube site and read the comments, and there's always haters and negative people and just people that just want to be jerks. So I guess that's just part of the internet. It doesn't bother me. I don't let it bother me at all. But I hate to see people get confused or discouraged reading what people are saying when they're just plain wrong. So don't listen to them. You judge what we do based on your heart and what you think, and if you feel comfortable with it, you go with it. If you don't feel comfortable with it, if it doesn't make sense to you, or it doesn't feel comfortable with you, or you don't feel right with it, there's a lot of other places you can go on the internet to try to learn how to trade. I'm not the only one. So you got to go with your heart and trust your own judgment, and just don't listen to other people. That's why most traders fail, because they listen to other people that don't know what they're talking about, that claim they do and act like they do, and spout off all the big words that, the buzzwords that are in trading that are 100% wrong anyway. And so they seem wise and they seem like they know what they're doing, but most of them don't. They believe all that stuff, and most of them are failed traders. If they were really making money and busy trading, they wouldn't be over here hounding us. Trust me on that. They're only here because they're either teaching something of their own and they don't like what we're doing, or they're failed traders and they don't think anybody can do it. So it's usually one of those two, and that's usually their agenda. And so just don't listen to those people. Don't let them discourage you. Just have realistic expectations when you come to this. You're not going to read a book or two. You're not going to read my price action manual and open a sim count and trade for a month and be profitable at this. It's almost impossible. Have realistic expectations. This is going to take a long time. Most people, it takes a few years, because you've got to get the screen time. You can learn, you might can get through our manual and have the basics of the understanding of knowing, but then you got to sit here and get the screen time and get the skill of drawing these trend lines and finding these key entry points and seeing the pattern set up. And it just takes a long time, because what'll happen is you'll get used to the market going sideways like this every day, and you'll finally get to where you can trade that, and then the next day it'll trend all day like that, and you're trying to short it all the way up, and then you'll say back out at the end of the day and say, I just didn't see that trend. I kept trying to short it all the way up, or I kept trying to buy it all the way down. But over time you will start to learn to see the different trends and the sideways, but it takes several years of experience seeing it and watching the market change. It goes through patterns. It lasts for a few weeks to a few months, and then it'll change again. It might trend straight up for several months, and then it might trend straight down for several months, or it might just go sideways for months. And it just takes a long time to get used to seeing the market and all its personality, and just getting a feel for what it's going to do. And there's just no way to learn this in a short period of time. So be realistic. But anyway, that's enough. I'm going to get off my soapbox. I'm going to wrap up this day. I hope you had a good trading day. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.